Well, hi there, and welcome to another episode of the All Around Growth Podcast. My name is Rob Kaiser, and I am your host. This is episode number 187 of a show that provides insight and tools to building the life and homestead of your dreams. Today is Friday, September 3rd, 2021, and before we get into or dive into the topic for today's show, I want to mention again that the seasons are changing. It's September, it's 46 degrees this morning. There is fog rising off of the pond, and dew is heavy on the grass. It's chilly, and daylight is just breaking, which means at some point it's going to be dark during the morning commute, and the nature of the show is going to change. Then we'll have daylight savings time, which is just another strange and unnatural thing that we do. One of many things that we participate in with our unnatural lives. But anyways, let's get into The Rudder of the Day by Dan Miller. Have you created boundaries that don't really exist except in your own mind? Centuries ago, when mapmakers drew all they knew of the world, they would sketch a dragon at the edge of the scroll. This was a sign to the explorer that beyond this, he would be entering unknown and perhaps dangerous territory. Unfortunately, many explorers took this symbol literally and refused to push out to new worlds. A few saw these dragons as a sign of opportunity, a door to places no one had gone before. Each of us has a mental map of what we allow ourselves to explore. Like those maps of long ago, many of us see dragons and danger in going beyond our familiar territory. It may be a fear of computers, a fear of interviewing, the embarrassment of not having a college degree, or the panic of being in front of people. If a man harbors any sort of fear, it percolates through all his thinking, damages his personality, makes him a landlord to a ghost. That's a quote by Lloyd C. Douglas. Ron came to me for coaching. At 39, he had never owned a house, had never been married, had never traveled outside the United States, and been in the same boring job for 17 years. He longed to have a family and to do something more meaningful in his work. But the imagined dragons inherent in the risk of trying new things kept him trapped in his very narrow and safe world. As we laid out conservative but definite plans for action in each of these areas, he became energized, confident, and enthusiastic. Today, he has several real estate investments, is a leader in his church missions trips to Central America, and is involved in a romantic relationship that appears headed for marriage. He's even thinking about buying a sports car. Quote, "Never take counsel of your fears." Close quote. Andrew Jackson. Let's slay a dragon today. What if you purposely took one of those uncharted territories? Could you get another degree this year? Could you find a way to double your income? Could you learn a new language? Join Toastmasters, or make 5 new friends? Could you start your own business, travel to Spain, learn how to interview effectively, or go to an art class? Guess what? Dragons don't really exist except as we allow them to. Our fears are usually exaggerated. Once you step up to the plate, you may realize that you were born to be the next great hitter. Do you need help stretching your ideas? Check out 48 Days to Creative Income, or some of the other resources at 48days.com. And I'm going to link to all of this in the show notes, because this is something I don't talk a lot about, and this is something that I'm going to be working on and implementing into my life over the next few months, because I've oftentimes complained about the fact that I don't have a solid plan of action, but there are tools and resources in order to put together a plan of action that gives me the ability to modify that plan. But in order to make modifications, one has to have a plan in the first place. And I'll be sharing how I go about creating that plan, utilizing many of these tools in the 48 Days community. So stay tuned in the future if you want to hear more about that. Now, before the question for today that gives us direction for today, let's take a look at a quote from the Bible. And this is from Psalm 91, verses 11 to 13. For he shall give his let's try that again, shall we? For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. They shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone. Thou shalt tread upon the lion and adder, the young lion and the dragon shalt thou trample under feet. Again, that's Psalm 91, verse 11 to 13. Old school, King James Version. And the question that gives us some direction for today is, what is the imaginary dragon that's holding you back today? Again, what is the imaginary dragon that's holding you back today? I hate these questions. And I love it at the same time. I've never been approached or presented with more thought-provoking information than I have been through the information that's presented in the 48 Days community. I've talked about a lot of different products and services over time and throughout the 186 previous podcasts. But since I've been participating in this, I've been participating in this community almost as long as this show has been around, alive. I started these routine podcasts in October of 2020, and I joined the 48 Days Eagles community in January of 2021, right at the end of December. I decided that was going to be how I was going to start and kick off my 2021 year. Up until that point, I hadn't really asked myself questions like, have you created boundaries that don't really exist except in your own mind? It's been an easy thing for me to talk about all the various reasons why I can't do the things that I want to do. And, you know, I listened to a short video the other day from Nicole Sauce, who is from Living Free in Tennessee. And she does these little things called Thought of the Walks, and they're brief videos of her taking a walk and just sort of rambling. The thought of the walk is very seems very similar to the manner in which I do this podcast. But instead of walking, I'm driving. But one of the things that she said in this little video was that no one cares why, they care that. And what she was talking about is no one cares about the reason why you can't do the things that you can't do. They care that you can't do those things. And perhaps some of the reasons why we are unable to do the things that we want to do, the things that we need to do in life, are because of these boundaries that we've created in our own mind, these boundaries that don't really exist. And for some of us, like myself, we read about these old map makers from long ago, and explorers would go out and they'd come back and they'd talk with the map makers. Hell, maybe the map makers were even on the ships that sailed. I don't know. But have you made a map for your own life? I have not. So these dragons that Dan wrote about, that the map makers drew at the edges of the map, I'm of the opinion that if you aren't proactively creating a map for your own life, that these dragons that exist, the proverbial dragons, if you will present themselves everywhere, anywhere in your life. But the reasons why these dragons are on the corners of the maps, at the edges of the maps, that indicate where the explored territory begins and the uncharted territory, or the explored territory ends and the uncharted territory begins. The dragons are there because the map maker deliberately put them there. The dragons have to be present in life. They don't have to be. They just are. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about the dragons in our lives. The dragons are present, my friends. Where they are in your life is up to you. And my takeaway from this story today is that my own dragons have been all around, present with me and inside me. And some of them are of my own creation, I suppose, because I'm not being proactive in the manner in which I am. I'm not being proactive in. Oh, I lost my train of thought. I'm stuck here in traffic in a school zone. But because I have not been proactive in locating the dragons in the map of my life, because quite frankly, there is no map in my life. The dragons are ever present. The dragons are everywhere. And in order to get a better grasp on said dragons, and in order to better control the dragons, or tame the dragons, if you will, apparently the only way that we can do this is to create a map. And when we find them, once we figure out where, again, we can change that map and change the location and change the way in which we deal with the dragons. But if we have no map, we don't know where we might find them. We have no plan. And if we fail to plan, we plan to fail. This was awesome. This was an excellent topic for today. I'm very much enjoying working my way through The Rudder of the Day. This seems to be the go-to book for a lot of episodes lately. I hope that this is providing as much value to you as it is to me. Because I feel like the guy Ron that Dan wrote about, that came to him for life coaching. Ron was 39. He'd never owned a house. He'd never been married. Never traveled outside the United States. And he had been in the same boring job for 17 years. I've never traveled outside the United States. Just once on a cruise, but I don't really think that counts. If you go somewhere to a resort or on a cruise, I don't really think that qualifies as travel. But I'm 43 now. I've never owned a house. I've never been married. I don't have kids. You may be married. You may own your house. You know, I haven't been stuck in a job for 17 years, but you know, there's a lot that I identify. There's a lot that's going on in Ron's life that I identify with. And there's a lot that's going on in my life that you may identify with. And if we sat down and had a heart-to-heart, I'd probably realize that there's a lot going on in your life that I identify with as well. And that's kind of the point of all of this, is that we're all processing what we're dealing with that's on life's terms. We're all doing it together, and it's important to have a solid support network. And sometimes we don't really experience the support network that we need with our family, our loved ones, our friends, because while we have far more in common with those people than the people that listen and consume the various content that we do, sometimes it's important to have a support network of people who are a little bit more in line with the specificity in which we are approaching this life. And that's hopefully what we are doing over in the Telegram chat. So on Telegram, we've got a couple different channels. One is a broadcast channel specifically for show updates only, for those who are in too many chat groups. But for those of you who want to get involved and talk shop about life on life's terms, podcast topics, or anything in general for that matter, that's where we're at on Telegram, t.me/allaroundgrowth. The broadcast channel is t.me/allaroundgrowth podcast. But again, the channel where everyone, including myself, is t.me/allaroundgrowth. I would definitely encourage you to check that out and be a part of it, be a part of everything along with us. And definitely check out the show notes today as well. There will be more information about the 48 Days community. I will try to find out 48 Days to Creative Income, that resource, and I will share that with you as well. And if I can't find that one specifically, I'll include something about setting goals and give you guys a sneak peek into what I will be diving into as the season comes to a close, in order to get goals and everything squared away and in line for 2022. And I'm hoping to have that done by Thanksgiving so that I can get my ducks in a row over the month of December, so that by the time the new year rolls around, instead of spending that time during Christmas and New Year's working on my goals and doing my past year review, I'll have already done that And by the time the new year rolls around, I will be positioned to begin executing on the goals instead of trying to figure them out. So those are some takeaways, some keys that I've learned from the 48 Days community, some tips and tricks that I'm sharing with you. And check out the show notes for more links and more resources on the 48 Days community. And it's good stuff. And if you have any questions about that, by all means, check us out in the Telegram group as well. Ask me there or drop me an email at allaroundgrowth@gmail.com. I would be happy to answer any questions that you have or any feedback that you have about the show. This is Rob Kaiser, and thank you.